So I put this image and to talk about what we will be talking about. And the why is because when I said that I work at Abbott, many people say, oh, you're like the ones that sponsor the marathons, or like you are kind of on the sporty. In reality, we are not really that side. So we work in healthcare, and we really help people on that side. And on my side, I work on the diabetes division, and we work into this small, tiny piece, the one I also have here, that measures glucose levels real time. So it has been a revolutionizing for patients with diabetes. But today, I really want to talk about this, just because I'm the person that separates you from the big party, and people really want to get there. On top, we had a delay, and I'm kind of the last ones. So today, I want to talk about ant colonies, and really how we are helping us. And for that, I just started why really ants, and what's the point about talking about ants? If we talk about evolution, and many people say, oh, it's like humans, we are like the number one. So we are 7.6 billion people on the world. There are 10 quintillions of ants in the world. They are more evolutionized. They even know how to clone themselves. We don't know yet. And why I choose the ant topic, I think we can learn a lot about them. But on top is because normally my day, it's this way. So this is type of the diagrams that we talk about. We talk about like the user environment, the phone, what is going on there, how the user is using the phone, and the device interface, and how all this going through the device use, and if something can go good or can go wrong. And if something goes wrong, we don't even treat as a bug. We treat it as a defect, something very serious that can damage someone. So we really seek for perfection of an app. It's kind of launching a rocket, but in a small device. And we have iOS 17 coming. You never know what is going there. So today I really want to talk about like how we can learn about ants. And let's start about the 7 points that I was describing through. And the first point, and I think it's important why we are here, is about the community part. And we sometimes forgot about this, but ants are really social. And the importance of social is that really grow by not just one individual. And we need to make sure that, for example, you take the example of the ants that were like in South America, the Argentinian ants, and they migrated to Europe thanks to humans, and they keep growing and help each other. And on healthcare, it's very similar. So you cannot really build a team you alone and build one single app, because it's very complex environment, and you need to treat into the community. It's not about like you and the patient only relationship. You also have healthcare system, the reimbursement. There are a lot of people, even the caregivers. So when you are taking care of a patient, or like it can be your family member, so you need to help them. And how it's really helping React, and that's why also we are moving into the React Native, is because in the past, we used to think about we can do everything alone, but it's very complex right now. And React helps be around this community about helping each other. And it's not just React, it's all the libraries that are around. And I think that's an important piece when we talk about healthcare, that it's about community, how other like open source libraries and this community is helping. The second point that I want to talk is about specialization. And many times, like we see the ants. So here you see on the picture multiple ants. So this is the queen, there are some workers, and the interesting fact of the different specialities of the ants is that depending on the protein they eat, they evolve into a different type of worker, and they have their different tasks. It's really similar into healthcare. You have on a team, you have different specialties like the software development, but on top, you need to think about that on a regulated environment, we are building different type of regulations per country. For example, in France, you cannot export the data outside of the country. You have different pieces. So all this, it's baked into React. And the good thing of React, that it really helps, like by design, be able to be more specialized. You think always as a developer in components. You don't think about one single code that we'll get. So by implementing React into an application, it really puts this mindset differently. And the third point that I really want to talk is about the messaging system and how you communicate. So on the ant system, and this image is about pheromones. So they communicate to each other through pheromones. But it's even more. They send messages to be able to kill another ant that is invading them. So they are really evolved. And in healthcare, when we talk about like communication, we are very hard on documentation, how we share code, and how we are able to get to the next level. And in React, there is easy to share code. And we talked before, thanks to the storyboard, how we can better make this communication, how we can flow this part. So on the React side, can help on that environment too. So this is a great example of how it goes there. And the next one that I want to talk, it's about security and architecture. So ants are great builders, and in fact, one important piece of how they are building their ant hill is they really take care about security. They take care about how they are building their different tunnels and the different chambers. And in security, in healthcare, we really take care about this because, for example, there is a high risk if you get compromised an app that someone can get damaged. So we need to protect all this. And I've been talking with some of you, and we have the problem of like, oh, React is not safe enough, and why you are using React, it's open source, you can see the code, people can like look into what is going there. But in fact, this is kind of, and we had this conversation before, but this is also true on native code. You can do all these pieces on the native side. So if you have an issue, you need to address. It's not that because people doesn't read your code, you should like, oh, I will not patch it, I will fix it in 1 year because it's safe. So this is something that React also helps on that side, but it's even better. And I always turned around and I said, no, React is more safe. Why? Because I can read what the others are doing. So if I see a new release, I can check what has been implemented. While, for example, on new iOS, and I say iOS because it's getting to release next week, no one knows what has been changed. And this is the question. So we have like the golden release, and maybe we can guess, but the real changes we really don't know. And let's jump to the next one. And here I didn't find an ants picture, just because it was hard like to see the population per se, and I'm from Spain, so I thought that summertime, a lot of people in the beach, you will see like the problem of scaling. The ants, when they scale, they have a big problem. They get out of resources, and what happens in many cases, they eat each other to be able to save the colony. The important part is the community. And in healthcare, you need to scale. And we talked with Fernando about like how we are scaling apps and the importance. And it's clear that in healthcare, you need to scale because you cannot make one single team that builds a solution for all the countries. The diseases are highly complicated, and you need to have a full view. And in React, it's clear that it can scale properly, and you can build different teams, specialize. So that really shows that React can help on that direction. And the next one, I really like this one, I'm really pushy on that, is about tools. And I always put the same example. So you can build a table with a stone. So, I mean, thousands of years we've been building tables with stones. And the ants can like do multiple things. In fact, in Africa, they use ants. When they have a cut, they put the ants here and they break it, and then they kill the ant, and just as a pins, the mandibles gets there. And in healthcare, we need a full ecosystem. We need to focus, narrow focus on the tricky part about like taking care of the user. All the other parts we need to delegate. And I'm always like saying, you cannot build like a software these years as you were building software on the 80s. Because the tools are important, and we don't even realize about this. So there's a lot of people that say, no, I can just build an app and I don't use anything around the ecosystem. This is not efficient enough. You need to focus on the problem you're solving and not using the other tools. And I'm always engaging with different tools, different ways of developing to be able to improve. And there are a lot of pieces that we don't realize that it's there. So we need to think about like which tools, and it's not an attack. Sometimes the people I perceive, oh, it's like pushing into the IT guys that they are like blocking some tools. It's more about making use of what is today, and it's why it's important to come to places to see what other developers are using. And let's jump into the last one, and the code maintenance. So the ants, obviously, they clean their nest. They are really focusing on improving. But I don't like to talk about what we talked about technical debt, because technical debt per se doesn't exist. In fact, when you deploy an app, or in fact, you want to do a commit, you're already having technical debt. And Nicola explained us that from one moment to another one, we can have the app crashing worldwide. Because the community is so vibrant that they are always thinking new things. So we cannot focus on, oh, we will like update later, all this. It's part of our release. And when we're talking about healthcare, and our goal is to be super safe, as I was explaining, it's about this quality of software. So we don't talk about technical debt per se. It's something that you release constantly and you keep improving. Don't get like, oh, I will not update or React app, or I will expect to the next one. Just try to keep updating and getting there. And hopefully, just to conclude for the presentation, you will get inspired about learning about new organisms and getting there and observe other people. Sometimes we tend to do our own problems and they are unique, but in fact, everything is already solved somewhere else. If you tap to some problem that you have into your company, you mostly will be sure that someone in this room is solving the problem elsewhere. In another industry, it doesn't really matter. Just by talking to each other, we can really help each other. And in healthcare is the same, and sometimes some industries are more close, but the idea is to really observe. And at the end, by harvesting this community intelligence and the importance of the community, we should be able to improve. And here you see like corals is another superorganism that help each other to live together. And we should be able to do the same on the open source community and in any industry, not just focusing, oh, I'm just healthcare, or I'm just on one industry or another. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you will enjoy the party and see you later.